Hi, welcome back to the Ron's Personal Fitness YouTube channel. We're glad to have you here. Now, last time we talked about dumbbell movements, and if you look right about here, I think you're going to find a card that will reference that for you so that you don't miss anything. Now, today we're going to utilize cable movements and machine movements in the same Flye actions that we saw the other day. Now, one thing that we did not mention in the last video is the pressing motions are compound. The Flye motions, where you're bringing in and medializing, bringing to the midline, those are isolation exercises. The primary joint that we're activating is through the shoulder joint. When we're pressing, we're also getting that elbow and the triceps really involved. Well, when we're isolating, it allows us to really feel the muscle contract a little bit better. Remember that mind-muscle connection that we talk about so much? With isolation movements, you can really get that isolation that you're looking for, that concentration on that movement. Now, you can't use as much weight, but you don't need to. And, the theory goes that the more resistance that we use, the more stress we put on the muscles, the more fibers we can activate. Well, that's true, but when you're isolating, you're going to find that those muscles are going to fatigue a little bit quicker, and we're still going to get the recruitment that we need across that muscle despite not using 1,000,000 pounds. Okay, so absolutely use your isolation motions and movements to focus and put yourself into that muscle and feel those fibers just contracting to their maximum. Okay, now we're going to see a variety of movements here, a lot of them in the same machine. So when you're at your gym, if it's a public gym, don't try to do 5 different movements in the same machine because other people might be waiting for it. Let's be courteous of other people. Another thing to keep in mind is if you don't have this particular machine in your gym, there might be an alternative there. And if you ask one of the staff members, they may say, oh, well, that one over there can do the same thing. All right, so let's get started with today's video.
All right, here we are in the cable crossover machine. I'm locating the center of the machine because I want an even pull on both arms. The pulleys are at the highest position for this machine, and I'm going to keep my knees bent. My feet are parallel, wider than shoulders width. I've got a good base, and I'm pulling down to a position that's a little lower than the midline of my chest. I'm trying to target the maximum amount of my chest. I'm not isolating one part over the other here. This is to activate all of it. And now we're adding in what we would call a true cross or a crossover movement where the hands literally cross over one another. And I'm maximizing that contraction in the middle of the chest, right on the sternum. Big squeeze. Now, with an offset stance, some people like this better for balance. I'm now using that same position to target lower on the chest. I'm keeping my elbows bent, no stress on the biceps, squeezing through the chest, breathing out on the contraction. And of course you want to alternate legs as you alternate the sets here. Another thing you can do is when the pulleys are up high is keep your hands up high. Now I'm targeting the clavicular insertion or the upper chest, the clavicle. Much harder. I have much less leverage up there, and those are really tough. Now, one thing you'll see in the gym is this. This is very poor form. Potential for injury is very high. As I drop my body weight down, it's lifting the weight, getting momentum. All I have to do is extend my arms. I haven't done a darn thing for my chest there. Limiting the range of motion's no good either, and restricting the movement so that I don't get any negative, that's not good either. I want to raise that weight or lower it under control at all times. Now we've moved the pulleys to a middle of the machine. Not all cable crossover machines will allow this, but if you have multiple settings, move it down so that it is across, parallel one another, parallel to the floor. And I'm moving across, directly across the midline of my chest. Again, I can utilize the machine to allow where I target. And you can see my hands are right down the middle as I do that. They're not too high, they're not too low. And now the pulleys are moved to the bottom of the machine, where I'm going to target the lower chest with a rising crossover or cable movement. I don't actually need to cross this one. I just need to bring my hands together at about chin height, and you'll feel that contraction tremendous right there. Again, you can't use a ton of weight here because we just don't have the leverage that we're looking for. Now we've moved a bench into the machine, and instead of dumbbells, I'm going to do a fly with the cables. Now I have the cable set higher off the bottom, but in line with where I would be if I was lying down. So you can see now they're straight across from one another. I keep my elbows bent just like in a dumbbell movement. I'm breathing out on the way up, squeezing the contraction. The handles are positioned in such a way that as I come all the way out, the weight just barely taps right there. So I don't want to take tension off, but we're not going to overdo the stretch on this one. In the next one, the bench is still flat. The pulleys have been lowered, which will give me the opportunity for more of a stretch. Notice how I bring the weight into me first for leverage and then raise it. Again, looks very similar. I'm still hugging the barrel, hugging the tree, keeping the elbows bent, isolating the movement across the chest from out to in, squeezing on every contraction, breathing out, and feeling the fibers contract. If I don't feel it, I'm probably not activating the muscles like I want, and I'm not getting the most out of that exercise. Now the bench is in a decline position. The top has been lowered below parallel, so my head will be lower than my waist. And again, when we utilize a decline, we're targeting the lower chest. Keep it in tight right there. Isolating the lower chest. There's no difference between this and the dumbbell except for constant tension. As long as that weight is suspended on either end of the weight stack, then gravity is pulling down on it against my pull. So there's no point in that movement where I don't feel tension on the cable. Here we have an incline bench. Positioning ourselves again in the center of the machine with our head up higher than our waist, we'll target the upper chest. And we bring it in tight, raise it up. You'll notice immediately that this looks exactly like the dumbbell fly, because it kind of is, only the constant tension of the cable provides a different form of resistance. So the muscles feel it a little bit different. You'll notice that the movement feels a little bit different. You can really control it. Squeeze. Now don't chop up your movements. You're not going to get much out of that. When I say bend your arms, I didn't mean like that. And don't turn it into a press, because that position is not the best for pressing. Here we have a seated fly machine where you position the seat so that your arms opposed to one another are parallel to the floor. And I'm going to bring and pull the weight across my body, isolating through the midline of the chest and down through the sternum, bringing my hands together and lowering the weight under control, breathing out on that contraction. One thing I can do is open my hands so that it will allow a little bit more range of motion if I want to get more squeeze. Position your thumb though so it doesn't just slip off. Don't hack up the movement though. One thing you'll see is people leaning way into this movement and kind of doing a shoulder movement more than a chest. That's just not appropriate. Now there is an alternative machine where you'll sit with your arms this way here at 90-degree bend and the pads right along your forearm. There'll be handles at the top. You'll squeeze your arms together and bring your elbows together for the contraction.
And there you have it, a variety of exercises all performed utilizing cables and machines that will provide that isolation that we're really looking for. None of the movements today I would classify as a compound movement. They are all isolation movements. And boy, let me tell you, you can get quite a pump in those muscles if you do this correctly. Now, let's keep those rep ranges around 12 repetitions. We want to get enough repetition so that we're stimulating the muscle and activating as much muscle recruitment as possible. But don't use such a heavy weight that you're getting down very, very low in the rep range, say 6 reps in an isolation movement. There may be a time for that, but right now is not the time if you're just beginning your routine. So let's keep those reps up, okay? And again, the support for this channel has just been amazing. I really appreciate all the subscriptions and the likes and the comments that we're getting. Maybe not below the video, but to me personally. So I really appreciate that. And in our next video, we're not even going to touch a weight. The entire routine is going to be with body weight exercises, still with the chest, and we even have compound movements that we can do there. So we're going to add those next time, so look forward to that, and thanks for watching. Click that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, that'll let you know when the next video comes out. Hit that like button, that helps us in the rankings on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.